The ornate letter sat on the antique writing desk like an eerie premonition. Meghan Markle stared at the Kensington Palace letterhead, her heart pounding in her chest as she ran her fingers over the unmistakable seal of the royal family crest. She had been anxiously awaiting this response for months, ever since putting in her official request. With a trembling hand, she slipped a letter opener under the thick parchment and slit through the elegant wax insignia. This was it, the verdict that could change everything for young Lilibet's future. Meghan took a deep breath and unfolded the crisp stationery. The words hit her like a ton of bricks. My esteemed Duchess of Sussex. I must convey my regrets that your petition to award the style and title of Princess Royal unto your daughter Lilibet has been given fervent consideration, but ultimately cannot be accepted or granted. Meghan's hands started shaking as she read those opening lines. She couldn't believe it, her own sister-in-law was outrightly denying her reasonable request. After everything the institution had put her through, this was a devastating insult of the highest order. Steadying her nerves, she pressed on reading through the painfully formal and detached vernacular. While I comprehend fully your ambitions and aspirations for Princess Lilibet's ascension within the royal ranks, protocol and procedure bound by ancient charters simply does not accommodate such a transfer of titles hereditary or otherwise outside of the direct lineage of accession. As the presently standing Princess Royal, this esteemed designation must remain vested in my retinue until the appropriate time arises for it to pass traditionally unto the eldest daughter of the succeeding monarch. The audacity, the unmitigated gall. Meghan seethed under her breath as her face flushed hot. She could practically hear the condescending, holier-than-thou tone dripping from Anne's overly officious words. I recognize that as a proud mother, you desire only the world's accolades and nobility for your firstborn child. However, the loftiness and gravitas of titles within the firm are not mere baubles to be portioned out at one's personal inclinations. The letter rambled on in that same infuriatingly patronizing tone about the sanctity of tradition and preserving the monarchy's hierarchies and customs. With each flowery line, Meghan's rage compounded exponentially. How dare this out-of-touch relic try to denigrate and diminish her entirely justified request? She had been promised, deserved ample recognition and elevation for the path she chose to bring forth the first child of biracial heritage eligible for a princely title. As such, your heartfelt petition for Princess Lilibet to inherit my designation as the Princess Royal unfortunately cannot be granted or advocated for on my behalf, the letter concluded. Although your daughter's place among the ranks of nobility remains recognized, no precedent exists for awarding the particular honor you propose outside the customary lineage of succession. I wish you and the young princess my utmost regard and contentment, albeit bound by the weight of these ancestral protocols to which we must all adhere. Meghan's chest heaved with a potent combination of unrestrained fury and disbelief. The mirror across the room spiderwebbed from how forcefully she hurled the crumpled letter at it. This insult would not stand. How dare this rote traditionalist dismiss and deny her daughter's birthright to cement her place in the history books? After everything the royal family had put her through, this was a shocking slap to the face. In a flash, Meghan swept everything off her desk in a burst of volcanic rage. Water glasses, picture frames, expensive pens and inkwells clattered to the floor in a dramatic flourish. She kicked over the antique chair and let out a primal scream of indignation. The Princess Royal would regret this arrogant snubbing, Meghan swore to herself as she began drafting a scathing rebuttal letter. Her demand would not be ignored or swept aside for some antiquated protocols cherry-picked from the ream of royal rules. This was about righteously solidifying her legacy and putting a tangible legacy on Lilibet's heritage for generations to come. As she furiously scribbled out the heated opening remarks, Meghan plotted just how to apply massive shame and insist on the acquiescing of her reasonable, trailblazing request. If the royal establishment dared to double down and snub her again, the entire world would bear witness to their discrimination. The Princess Royal had awoken a force to be reckoned with. Meghan would not relent until her daughter received not just the title, but the recognition owed to the first youth of color born into the highest echelons of the British monarchy. She had sacrificed far too much to back down from this fight. After hours of searing condemnation and impassioned pleas dripped out through the inkwell, Meghan sealed up the furious countermissive and addressed it directly to the Princess Royal's estate. This would not be brushed off with a boilerplate excuse about tradition. She demanded a face-to-face audience to plead her case directly. With a defiant raised chin, she marched towards the front door of the Montecito estate to summon a royal courier for urgent delivery. This was just the opening salvo of Meghan's righteous campaign for her daughter's birthright. She refused to remain silent and allow this injustice against the first offspring of African heritage to stand. Her fight had only just begun. 6 months later. The summer heat baked the exquisitely manicured grounds of Princess Anne's Gatcombe Park estate as Meghan Markle emerged from the royal motorcade. To finally receive a summoned audience with Her Royal Highness herself marked the culmination of half a year's worth of indignant letters, public scoldings, and impassioned advocates pleading her righteous cause. She would not leave these lush confines until obtaining the title and recognition deserved for Lilibet. The anticipation reached a fever pitch as regally dressed footmen escorted Meghan past the opulent cherub fountains and pavilions, finally ushering her into the regal drawing room foyer where Princess Anne sat stoically awaiting. The room's aura of haughty pomp and self-importance made Meghan's skin crawl upon entry. "Your Royal Highness," Meghan stated formally with a slight curtsy, setting down the baggage filled with documentation and keepsakes only for her eyes. "I want to ardently thank you for granting me this briefing after my perpetual insistence upon the matter." Princess Anne gave a curt nod, not rising from her settee-premised position of utter complacent control. "It is my esteemed obligation to hear all petitioners out before preserving institutional rulings," she said with an arid, hollow tone of propriety dripping with stultifying boredom. "Do proceed then with your repeated entreaties and I shall allow them equal audience, Your Grace." The backhanded emphasis on Meghan's lesser title instantly set her bristling, but she attempted to maintain composure. This was her chance, perhaps her last, to plead the case owed to her daughter's legacy and heritage. With a steadying inhale, she delved into the heap of materials, brandishing cherished photos of baby Lilibet. "Firstly, Your Royal Highness, I must iterate what a profound joy and blessing my darling daughter has been," Meghan began, eyes sparkling while projecting the photos. "She enters this life representing such a revolutionary breakthrough for the archaic traditions and bloodlines which have defined this monarchy's lineage across centuries." The princess maintained a statuesque visage throughout Meghan's impassioned appeals and pleadings, sipping from a tea service as photo after photo depicting Lilibet's milestones appeared. "As you well know, my daughter is the first youth of biracial descent born to a senior member of the royal family," Meghan persisted, displaying shots of Lilibet's first birthday surrounded by African decorations and indigenous symbology. Her very being enshrines the institutional progress that must be recognized for keeping the monarchy's archaic customs relevant through ushering in new representation. Princess Anne shifted almost imperceptibly in her seat before droning, "The circumstances of one's birth parentage, or ethnic background, cannot supersede the legalese and precedent in place to maintain sovereign degreeance and noble all ranks, Duchess. As gratifying as your sentiments surely are, the fealties and hereditaments defined under ancient royal precept are sacrosanct." Meghan gritted her